Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And some very interesting developments around SBU NKOSI and his potential future, or maybe lack thereof, at the Bulls. And in what has been one of the biggest stories of the year, sort of SBU NKOSI and the SBU NKOSI situation continue to sort of develop in a very strange and interesting way. And and the latest update coming from the player himself, obviously very unhappy at the Bulls, and obviously not very happy with how things are playing out, which is going to be interesting to see what will sort of happen. And this is on the back of scoring 2 tries for the World 15 against the Barbarians yesterday at Twickenham. So it's going to be an interesting sort of couple of months ahead for the World Cup winner, who's just kind of dropped off the radar a little bit. Before we start talking about exactly what's happened and what he's come out and said, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so SBU NKOSI played for the World 15 this weekend. And they did go down. They lost to the Barbars. But he did score 2 tries. And it was very cool to see him, first of all, go and play for the World 15. And the fact that he's still considered in that sort of bracket. And that also, from a mental perspective, he's ready to sort of go and play in sort of matches like this. We haven't seen him really playing for the Bulls in the last sort of month. Now, we all kind of know the story about SBU NKOSI, who was missing at one stage. Nobody could find him. And then he turns out he was actually at his father's house. He'd been struggling with mental health issues and struggling with depression. He just couldn't sort of face what was going on. And after a couple of weeks and about a month or two, he then returned to the Bulls, and they said he's back and he's sort of going to be integrated. And when he's ready to play, he will play. He then played a couple of games and playing a lot on the wing, number 11 jersey, actually more than sort of his natural 14. Was playing in the Currie Cup, wasn't really playing in the URC, and then all of a sudden just wasn't playing really in the last couple of weeks. And then he popped up, played for the World 15, and played very well. Now, at the moment, he's very much not on the Springbok radar. He hasn't been included in any Springbok training camps or stuff like that, so he will not be playing in the Springboks this year. He turned 27 this year, so he's got plenty of time to get himself back in that setup. But it looks like he will not be playing in the World Cup. And the question is sort of where's it all gone wrong? And maybe, the big thing is that move to the Bulls could potentially have been the worst thing that could have ever happened to him. Because that seems to have sort of been the start of all the problems. Now, it's difficult to understand if it's a case of just the move or just the timing and stuff like that. But he moved to the Bulls this season, and being one of the best wings in the country, a World Cup winner, a third choice wing, played in the semi-final of the last World Cup, was brilliant as well in it. The time of the Bulls has not been particularly good. And Jake White recently even spoke about the fact that maybe he actually needs to move away, he needs to go overseas and get a bit of a fresh start. Now, this is what he shared on his Instagram page regarding the game. And I think this is very much definitely a dig at the current environment that he finds himself in at the Bulls. He says, "It was reviving to my passion to spend a mere week with men who are pure of heart. A break from being judged by men who are bigger in their minds than they are in reality." Not particularly cryptic, is it? Basically, I think for me that has to be a bit of a dig at the environment at the Bulls and what's currently going on. So that I think could be a bit of a lens into the situation, and I genuinely think that the Bulls, for whatever reason, whether it's the union, whether he just doesn't fit, whether there are people he's clashing with, whether it's management stuff like that, it just hasn't worked for him at the end of the day. He hasn't, I think, obviously seen eye to eye with everybody. The environment isn't conducive to him, and he's kind of obviously fallen into a really bad place. And I think that going to the World 15, and obviously it's a very relaxed environment, these sort of games. They're invitational games. You're playing with some of the best players in the world, for example. So in terms of a confidence boost of being in and around, some of the top players in the world, it kind of makes you sort of remind you, Bailey, of the type of player you are, the quality of player you are, and what you still have to give. And I think he was around some pretty big personalities and some pretty great coaches. And I think a lot of that probably quite a lot of positive feedback is maybe what he hasn't been getting at the Bulls. And, it's pure speculation regarding why it hasn't been working at the Bulls. But I think it's pretty clear that it's not working. The fact that Jake White's even spoken about the fact that maybe he needs to move away. Now the player himself coming back and saying, it was really good to have a week away from that environment. And from apparently being judged by the men in the environment. So it's at the end of the day, things are not happy. It's not a happy SBU NKOSI camp. It's not a happy Bulls camp. And I think the only thing that could happen to get his career back on track would be to leave. He's played 16 times for South Africa. He should have played 36 times for South Africa. He should have played a lot more than what he's played at the moment when you look at the quality of player he is. So it's frustrating for him, but hopefully for what he'll be able to find a way to get his career back. From a rugby perspective, we really do miss a fit and firing SBU NKOSI. He's an absolutely brilliant player. But it's interesting, and you talked about we looked at the Bulls, for example, the last few months, and they've had quite a tumultuous time. And it's interesting how some players just don't fit into certain setups, and you got to sort of understand why. Sometimes it's not necessarily players' fault, but sometimes it is due to the player themselves just not really enjoying that environment, just not suited to a particular environment. Sometimes there is a toxic environment which some people can adapt to, some people can't adapt to, but for whatever reason, as I said, this sort of post shows you that he's not happy where he is, and hopefully he does find a move away. He does find a change of scenery, and we can find a way to sort of reignite that old SBU NKOSI. As a Springbok fan, I just want to see this guy playing space rugby. If he's looking for a move, if he's already found a nice house in Gauteng, you've got another union just down the road in the Lions, who I'm sure would absolutely love to have somebody with SBU NKOSI's quality. I do think probably an overseas move is always what he needs. He needs to go and play for a team which really suits him, and get away from the spotlight a little bit maybe, and just go and play and a bit of a fresh start. I think that's probably exactly what he kind of needs. So I do think an overseas move is probably the best thing. Maybe a return to the Sharks if that's what he feels comfortable doing. But it does sort of maybe raise a bit of a red flag as to what things are like in the Bulls, and maybe there are major issues. But at the same time, I said it could just be a case of him not being able to adapt to the environment or not enjoying the environment from his personal preference point of view. What do you think? I want to know what your opinions are down in the comments below. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.